Oh, hello. Can we please talk about UFC Vegas 41 or UFC Fight Night 196 or whatever the hell it is you want to call it? Costa versus Vettori. That's basically what it was. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having a real quick look. Like a few of the fights, I placed some terrible bets. Some of them were terrible. A couple of them came off. And yeah, so I'll be doing a breakdown of some of the fights, some of the action from this week, and also having a look at some of the MMA news and combat sports news just in general, and obviously having a bit of a laugh at the funniest memes that I have seen this week. So let's get cracking with the Burt Locker 91. So, my first bet was on Mason Jones and David Onama. That was in the lightweight division. Now, this was a great fight. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It was on the prelims, I think. So if you've got the UFC Fight Pass, you'd just be able to go back and be able to watch it. The fight was pure chaos. It was just, to be honest, I thought Mason Jones, if he'd have been a little bit more, not careful, what's the word, technical, then he could have avoided a lot of the firefight that he ended up in. Now, for me, it was back and forth, and you know what, Onama, I want to see more of that guy as well. Like, obviously, Mason Jones, he did a great job, and he thoroughly deserved to win. But my point on that one was that Onama was like a plus 450 underdog, and watching that fight, you wouldn't think that either party was that big of an underdog. So that's why there was value in that bet, if you see what I mean. Because it was chaos. Like, there was a few times where Mason Jones was very nearly like being knocked out. He was getting pieced up, right? Yeah, it was a really good competitive fight. So hats off to both guys. Go back and watch it if you get a chance. Dwight Grant versus Francisco Trinaldo. This one, it was relatively close. Trinaldo, I can't believe that guy can still fight at the age of 43, because the lighter weight classes, basically the heavier weight classes, the average age in the heavyweight division is something like late 30s. I'm pretty sure it's about that. But that's because power is the last thing to go. The lighter weight classes, people retire much earlier because obviously, you know, you're reliant on your speed and your reactions, and those are the first attributes that generally disappear. The fact that Francisco Trinaldo is still going is a testament to him. But then again, he does rely quite heavily on his power, and as I just mentioned, power is the last thing to go. And I stand by my bet. At the end of the day, that was always going the distance, and you know what? It was a split decision. It was a perfectly fine decision, but also it wouldn't have been like a robbery to go the other way either. Like, I didn't know who was getting the hand raised at the end of that one. So taking Dwight Grant by decision, I still stand by that. There was value in that bet because it was like plus 350 or something like that. And considering it went to a split decision and it was a coin toss, basically, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, it was just a bit unlucky. Alex Caceres versus Choi Songwoo were at 145. Now, very happy with that one. Caceres came in as a 325 underdog. He should never have been that big of an underdog because Choi Songwoo, he's not like that elite level kind of killer that should be having the odds like in their favour that much. I mean, also hats off to Caceres. He took that illegal knee like an absolute champ. Everyone's looking at Sterling like shit. But yeah, no, to be fair, two very different instances, and the fact that Caceres was able to come back and then get that submission is absolutely fantastic. What a testament to that guy. He is the Orlovsky of the 145 division. He's the litmus test, and unfortunately Choi Songwoo, he failed that test, and that is what happened. I would love to see Caceres just sneak into that top 15. The problem is he'll come up against somebody really, really elite, and he might come unstuck, but I look forward to seeing him continue to climb because I've got a lot of time for Alex Caceres. He's been around for a minute. And then you got Jessica Rose Clark against Jocelyn Edwards. Now, this one, it was a good fight, actually. It was really good. Look, Edwards, she looked pretty good on her feet, but like Clark was just able to take her down at will, and that's what happened. And she was just absolutely dominant. I really thought that the submission was coming. I don't know how Edwards managed to defend for like basically 3 rounds of just defending on the ground, but Edwards, you know, to her credit, did a good enough job to stop that submission. You know what, there was value in that bet, and I did think it was going to the ground, and it did. And you know what, the submissions were fairly close, but obviously not close enough. So bottom line is, it was a terrible bet because it didn't come off. Then you had Grant Dawson versus Ricky Glenn. Now this one, was a bit of a mental fight, really. It seemed like rounds 1 and 2, it looked like the submission was inevitable, because again, I had the submission on this one for Grant Dawson, because I know that Grant Dawson, he's just very good at taking it to the ground. He makes no secret of it. You know, he'll take you to the ground and he'll try and submit you. He reminds me a little bit of Matt Hughes in that respect, which is why I like him so much. Now, fair play to him, Glenn did enough to stop him from getting the submission. Dawson expended a lot of energy, particularly when he was holding... There was one point he was just holding Glenn up in the air. He's just holding him in the air and then slammed to the floor. That takes a lot of energy. Dawson looked exhausted in round 3. Glenn was able to take advantage and his striking was far better and he really pieced him up. And it was a 10-8 round, I thought. Two judges scored it a 10-8 round, so that's why it was a majority draw, which is the fair result here. I would love to see those two run it back. Then you had Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori, whatever weight class that Costa decided to come into at the end of the day. You know, I was really hard on Costa in the run-up to that fight, because I do think it's unprofessional that he didn't make weight. He was contracted to make that weight. He messed Vettori around, he messed the fans around, but I don't know, maybe I was a little bit too hard on him, because actually that extra heat, all the palaver, that extra heat really added something to that fight. I found myself watching it live because it was on at a good time as well, nice reasonable time. And I found myself really just, I mean, the way he came out like to the octagon, like he came out like a bull. He was snarling. He accidentally spat in the cut man's face. The cut man was doing his Vaseline on him, and he was just like, oh, and like you see loads of spit come off, and like the cut man's just like, yeah. It was pretty funny, but yeah, it was just that intensity. He looked huge. He looked like the villain in a fit. Like he was. Obviously, he played the part of the heel really well. And actually, I think sometimes you need that. You know, having to separate them when the referee was bringing them together, having to do all that, it all adds to the pageantry, doesn't it? And I'm into that. Do you know what I mean? It really adds to the drama. And you know what? The fight lived up. The fight was absolutely sensational. If you haven't watched the fight, go back and watch it. I won't ruin the result yet. Just pause it, obviously, here. But it was an insane fight. I would watch those two fight every week. And fair play to Costa actually impressed me. You know what? Because I was really hard on Costa, but actually watching how he was able to keep his power right the way through to the final round, which he won that final round. So he actually looked better in the final round than he did kind of throughout the fight, because I do feel like he lost that fight 4 rounds to 1. I don't feel like he did enough to win any round before that point. And obviously there was the point deduction as well. A lot of people said that Jason Herzog was really harsh to take a point off of Costa for that eye poke, but the fact of the matter is he'd already warned him for keeping his fingers out. It wasn't an eye poke like he'd warned him for previously, but he had warned him for leading with his fingers. And the first warning comes in the locker room, right? I think that it would be better for more referees to take that harsh stance like Herzog, because I guarantee it seems like there are a lot of unintentional fouls, right? It seems like I always make that joke that everybody gets one. Do you know what I mean? So you get 1 eye poke per round, so just use it. So, and because no one gets penalised for the first one. I think that actually you probably should, because even after 5 minutes, if you've been poked in the eye, right, gun to your head, is that eye as good as it was before you got poked? After 5 minutes, is it as good as before you got poked, or are you even slightly compromised? Because if you're even slightly compromised, then that isn't fair on the guy who's been poked in the eye, is it? He has been poked in the eye and he is now compromised for the rest of the fight, because honestly it takes kind of half an hour for your eye to start feeling better after you've been poked in the eye. It's pretty horrible. So why don't just, like, if you start taking a point after the first incident, then I guarantee it would happen a lot less. That's just my take on it. But yeah, I mean, so Costa kind of knew that he had to win. He had to try and get a knockout, and and you know what? Some of those body kicks and that head kick, I think it was in round number 3, like caught Vettori right on the neck with the meat of the shin. Beautiful head kick. And that's what Costa does really well, actually. He goes to the body and then he goes up top, and he was hitting with some insane power. Like, many other fighters than Vettori. Credit to Vettori's durability, because many other fighters would have gone down from any of those body kicks, and that head kick especially. So credit to both fighters. I thought both of their stocks went up massively. I would like to see Costa just go to 205. Honestly, he looked huge. honestly, he might not look as big compared to some of the light heavyweights, but Vettori's not exactly a huge middleweight, so I think that's why he looks so big. But I do think that there might be something to say for not doing that terrible weight cut, that Costa is able to just deliver with more power and more explosivity. And I would like to see him at least test the water at 205. And I think that is what Dana White has in mind. I know that Costa's coach is trying to kind of dispute it and not go down that route. But you know what? I think if Dana White says, look, I want you to be at 205 now, that's more or less what is going to happen. So yeah, fantastic fight. And you know what? Both fighters went up in my estimation after that fight. So yeah, honourable mention to Tabitha Ricci. Tabitha Ricci, not only what a fantastic performance, I might be in love with that girl. She is amazing. There's something that I just find extremely attractive about her. And yeah, and also just hell of a fighter. She put on an absolutely brilliant performance. So hats off to you, Tabitha Ricci. And yeah, so before I get into the news, I just want to thank you all for watching. If you're a returning viewer, welcome. Welcome back. If you're new to this, then like I said, I can only grow this by you guys sharing and liking and subscribing. So please, if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. If you would like to further support me, I am also on Patreon, the Burt Locker on Patreon. Now you get extra shows on there. You get early access to the fight picks. The fight picks are always on the Patreon on Friday. They're on the YouTube on Saturday. So do check that out because there is quite a lot going on the Patreon. But also there's a lot going on here as well. And all I ask is that if you're listening to this and you think you've got a friend that might enjoy this content, just let them know, and maybe they will. You know what, all they've lost is a little bit of time, even if they don't. But you know what, I have fun doing this, and I feel like that comes across here. It's always just, if you're interested in MMA and you'd like to have a bit of a laugh, then I feel like this is the show for you. So please, if you could like, share and subscribe, it is really important. And drop me a comment. Just drop me a comment. Call me a knobhead if you want. I don't care. It all helps the algorithm. Some guy was giving me abuse in the comments the other day. I was just like, thank you for your comment. And he just kept saying, no, you're wrong. You're an absolute knobhead. It's like, yes, thank you. I was wrong. Thank you for your comment. It's just like, because honestly, it all helps. And I welcome it. Anyway. Let's get into the news. So the biggest news at the moment, let's be fair, is that Logan Paul is going to be boxing Mike Tyson in an exhibition. I think they're looking at February for this. Now, this is interesting because, Logan Paul could be the first boxer to ever box both Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson. That's just weird, isn't it? That's weird. Like, they're such weight differences apart. Now, the thing is like, I don't like that they're always in these bloody exhibitions because it means that KOs aren't allowed. They don't even announce a winner. So it means that Logan Paul can argue that he beat these legends. It's just a bit of a weird look. I would like to see Logan versus Tyson, but in a real boxing match because I don't know, it says that the KOs aren't allowed, but then again, if that animal still is in Mike Tyson somewhere, he might want to make an example out of this kid. However, I would say that I've seen Mike Tyson and Logan Paul and that, they've all hung out a little bit, haven't they? They're all in on it, man. It's just, they're just there to make money, which is fair. That is absolutely fair enough. But I don't think that this is going to be a properly competitive fight. I think it's going to be similar to the Floyd Mayweather thing where you could kind of see that, Floyd was really taking it very easy. And it's going to be another one of those. I think that they're all just there to get a payday, which is absolutely fair enough. But, I won't be paying for it personally because I just feel like, if Logan Paul beats, Mike Tyson, or at least isn't knocked out by Mike Tyson, I just kind of think there's some sort of tomfoolery going on. I feel like there might be tomfoolery going on anyway, but that would kind of seal the deal for me. And I'm not hating on it, but at the end of the day, they're making money hand over fist, so fair play to them. And then we've got DC is under fire for stating that Fedor Emelianenko would not have thrived in the UFC. You know what? I don't think he's wrong. In fairness, I do not think he's wrong because the thing is, Big John McCarthy is obviously weighed in, saying that he would have wrecked Brock. It's like, would he? Would he though? That's the thing. You just don't know. Because the thing is, people forget that like, as much as people like to hate on Brock Lesnar, like, at one point in the world, like, he was, at one point in time, he was the best, like, UFC, he was the best mixed martial artist in the world. He was the UFC heavyweight champion, right? And that means he was the best. He was the best at that time. And he took out some pretty tough customers. Do you know what I mean? Shane Carwin, for instance. Do you know what I mean? Frank Mir in the second fight. And, you know, and people forget that some of that raw athleticism that Brock Lesnar possessed was a real problem for people. And if he gets on top of anybody, now I know, Fedor Emelianenko, Sambo specialist, really great at grappling in his own right, but he would have been giving up a lot of size to Brock Lesnar. And at a certain point, size does matter. It does. Because if you've got two people with similar skill sets, like, the bigger one's usually going to win. And things, if Brock Lesnar gets on top of anybody, that is a bad night. That is a bad place to be. Okay? And I'm talking like both of them in their prime. You just don't know. You can't just kind of blanket say, because I'm not saying that Brock Lesnar would beat Fedor Emelianenko, but I'm also not saying that he wouldn't. We don't know. That's the point. They were two very kind of different skill sets, and at the end of the day, fights are very, very different. Even if they fought 10 times, you wouldn't get the same result. So for John McCarthy to come out and go, well, no, he would have just wrecked Brock Lesnar, I feel like that's him just kind of doing the popular thing of like, yeah, Brock Lesnar's trash, he would have gotten killed. It's like, you know what, Brock Lesnar is a lot better than people like give him credit for, actually. Joey, he really is. He might not have been, people confuse Brock Lesnar, like they say, oh, he wasn't a good fighter. Incorrect. He wasn't a well-rounded fighter. He wasn't well-rounded. No, his striking left a lot to be desired, but if that dude gets on top of you and starts ground and pounding, that is a bad place to be. And you know what? He could. There are very few people that had a schedule as tough as Brock Lesnar's. You look at who he fought outside of that big Korean goof in like wherever that he had, the fight he had before the UFC. Like, he hasn't fought. He only fought one person that hadn't at least challenged for a title. One. That was Heath Herring. The rest were all either former title contenders or former champions. You name somebody else with a record that strong, because I'll tell you what, it ain't Fedor Emelianenko. His record, so some of those people that he put his 36-0 against were absolute cans. They just were, right? You can't. I would say that Fedor Emelianenko was the best at that time in Pride. And the other thing, when people go, oh well, you know, but Fedor was like did it all clean. It's like, did he? Did he? Because there was a reason he couldn't go to the UFC. I can't pronounce the thing that he was taking that was banned in America but wasn't banned in Japan. And let's face it, right? Fedor Emelianenko went 36-0 in a company that didn't have any drug testing. In fact, they actively encouraged it, some people have alleged. He also came from a country with a state-wide sponsored doping program, and you're telling me that you're 100% certain that Fedor was clean that entire time? I don't know. I'm not saying he definitely was on anything, but what I'm saying is people that say definitely he wasn't, I think you're kind of ignoring some of the big ol' red flags. Huh? But anyway, fight didn't happen, and I don't think he would have been that good in the UFC, because I mean we saw it, didn't we? He got beaten by Verdum, he got beaten by Silva, Dan Henderson, Ryan Bader, Matt Mitrione. Do I need to continue? Do you know what I mean? I think the proof right there is in the pudding. Had he gone to the UFC, I don't think Fedor would have been as successful as people perhaps give him, would like to believe he would have been. I do not think that Daniel Cormier is wrong on this one, and that is all I'm going to say on that. So, what else was I say? Oh yeah, Dan Hardy is apparently going to box Tyron Woodley in a boxing. Well, he's signed to box Tyron Woodley in a boxing match. I'm a big fan of that. They've been talking a bit of shit back and forth. At the end of the day, Tyron, you are not getting another rematch with either of the Paul brothers. This is the best that you're going to get. Sign that contract. I can't wait to see it. Right, let's go into Troll of the Week. Troll of the Week is pretty funny this week, to be fair. The first one we've got is one that I like to call Fat Costa. So yeah, let me just... This is that shirt as well, man. Look at that shirt. That is so... I would wear the hell out of that shirt. I love that shirt. It's fantastic. It's like, fighters be like, let's do a catch weight. Because it's like, yeah, no, he's not making weight, so yeah, do a catch weight. And then next up, we have got... This one's really funny. You know that kind of classic one where they do the Chris Evans, like Captain America, like whispering at the guy and then he goes for it. It's like, Paulo Costa pulled out of the Jared fight for a hair transplant. That procedure is expensive. No, it's a small price to pay. Spelt like toupee, like the wig, get it? So, yeah, no, I love that. I love stupid stuff like that. It just makes my day go by a little bit better. We've been seeing this one an awful lot. It's the classic because Conor McGregor has obviously been slapping around DJs. I think there's more to it anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna bring my buddy to a party. It's okay, he's chill, my buddy, and it's Conor McGregor looking real crazy and like a very badly lit. I want to say cupboard? What's he doing in there, man? When was that taken? Jesus Christ, Connor. What is happening? And there we've got John Jones. Oh, this one is my absolute favourite. It's like, look, I'm going to leave alcohol in my past forever. My future will be filled with greatness, love, and just a little cocaine. Fair play to you, Johnny. Fair play to you. Yeah, so that's it. That is everything that we've got for this week. So I'm going to be doing some bets. Obviously, we've got the really big card this week. Jan Blachowicz against Glover Teixeira. And there are tons of good fights on that card. I am going to be doing a... all my bets will be in on the Friday. We'll be having the prep show on the Patreon on the Thursday. And then all the terrible bets will drop on the YouTube on the Saturday, as usual. Until then, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.